how to hack success. So like I said earlier when I began the Dev Seminar, this is a subject that I love. I absolutely love it. I think I was introduced to it probably by my father. He bought me a book by a man called John Keogh, who came and did quite a few talks in South Africa on positive thinking. And I was fascinated by it. I think I read the book probably when I was in standard 6 or 7, about positive self-thought. And one of the biggest propagators of that kind of principle, and someone that I looked at for a very long time, was Arnold Schwarzenegger. You think about the achievements that man has accomplished in his life. I mean, an immigrant from Austria. I actually went to his hometown in Austria. It's like a proper little farm town. There's not much going on there. He couldn't speak a word of English and just arrived in America. And now you look, he's the same age as my father, so he must be about 71 now. And what he's accomplished as someone who could not speak English whatsoever. Mr. Olympia, 9 times in a row, or something ridiculous, right? Then one of the highest grossing Hollywood actors of all time. At one stage, remember when he was just making hit after hit after hit at Hollywood. And then he became governor of California, right? Just to top it off. Who knows what else he's got in store for him. But he was a massive proponent of positive thinking. And that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at how to change behavior, personality, and thought to benefit yourself and to improve yourself, okay? So why would we want to hack success? Like I said, when I started telling everyone we were doing this training, I said to everybody, there are many routes up the mountain, right? It almost goes without saying that we are all a little bit interested in what's the shortest cut there, right? Think back to school. How many of you had a study guide? Because you didn't take notes at school, so you just went and bought the study guide at C&A and you studied that, right? That was a typical example of how to hack learning, right? Why take the notes? Here's what you need to know. You go buy the study guide and you study the study guide. Easy as that. We are all very interested in ideas and methods, principles that allow us to, in this particular case, reach success more easily, more quickly, right? And it kind of goes back to the principle, and this is something that is going to be common throughout this presentation, is your willingness to learn. Your willingness to learn. I got very upset this week. After we put up Tell All Tuesday on Facebook, remember we put a couple of reminders on Facebook saying we had Tell All Tuesday. And one person commented there, oh no, everyone's got their own ways of connecting, so something about I'm not interested or something. I was like, oh my man. That is such a narrow-minded view to have. You will never learn anything new. And if you don't have capacity to learn, you will never get anywhere. You will never go forward. You cannot take a step forward without understanding that there is room for improvement and that you have a willingness to learn, right? And this is what hacking success is all about. It is about understanding that you need to learn to improve yourself. So, one of the people that I like to follow is this man called Andy Walsh. He is an Australian native. That's Andy over there. And he currently today works with the Red Bull performance team. So Red Bull sponsor elite athletes in all classes. Music, artists, athletes, extreme athletes, right? And one of the big things that they did a couple of years ago was this, what they called the Stratos Project. Now, the Stratos Project was this individual over here, Felix Baumgartner, who is a bit of a crazy person, loves to jump out of airplanes, do base jumping. He's got all kinds of records with regards to base jumping and crazy things. And what they decided to do as a project was they wanted to set the world record for the fastest free fall dive, right? Which meant that they had to use a balloon to get this little pod up to 124,000 feet. Airliners, so in December when we go on rank 9, the airliner that we're in is going to be traveling at 35,000 feet. This guy took a balloon up to 124,000 feet and decided to jump out, right? With a parachute, fortunately. The individual over here, Andy Walsh, is a specialist in the field of human performance. He helps all the athletes that Red Bull sponsor to improve their human performance, right? And he sets up crazy things. So what he does is he challenges people, right? He challenges every athlete. These are people that are already operating on the limit. But what he does is he creates experiences, not only for athletes, but also executives, big business executives that have lots of money to spend on these type of things. He'll set up experiences to challenge people. But some extreme stuff. In one case, what they did was they blindfolded some people and then suddenly pulled the blindfold off, and the person was in the middle of a forest with a grizzly bear 10 feet away from them, right? So what they try to do is stimulate the fight or flight response. They want to see how you react in certain conditions. And then what they do is they take measurements of all these various aspects of behavior and personality, your personal makeup, and then they look where they can improve. And then they will work with different specialists in different fields to improve those different facets so that person can become better, more confident. Instead of running away, they go, let me think really quickly, is this grizzly bear going to kill me, right? These type of things. And it feeds back into what they're trying to do. So whether they're trying to become athletes like this guy, and you might think, oh, this took, I think, 5 years to set up this project that they were doing. Right? And you speak to Felix, you go watch some interviews on him. He says they prepared for 5 years to make sure that the day was absolutely perfect and all the planning was perfect. He said, but no one had ever done this before. No one had ever done this before. So there was a moment where he was standing on the tip, looking down on Earth like it was a planet, right? Because you're so far up, it just looks like a little planet beneath you. And he had to take the step off. He didn't know what was going to happen because no one had done it before. So he did it. He hit 1,300 kilometers an hour. He broke the speed of sound, right? And became the record holder for the highest base jump, as well as setting the fastest free fall speed ever set. That old man that you saw in the video, he had the previous record. People had died trying to break that old man's record that was sitting there. Right? So you can understand the people that Andy Walsh is dealing with. And you're free to go look at Andy Walsh. He's got a blog. All the research that they do is available for everybody to go look at. All right. So one of the points that we make when we say about hack success, we're not actually trying to hack the success. We're not trying to make the mountain easier or smaller. Right? The point is that we're trying to hack ourselves. We are trying to adapt ourselves and skill ourselves so that climbing the mountain seems easier. All right? So, success is measured against achievements. You cannot shrink the mountain, right? Your goal has to remain your goal. What is your mountain? Do not compromise on that goal. Don't. You need to reskill yourself so that you can make sure that you get to that goal. If it takes you longer, it takes you longer. If you have to go up one path and decide this is the wrong path, go back down, start at another path, then do that. But don't decide, oh no, I'm only going up half the mountain. It's too difficult, right? Never compromise on what you're trying to do. You can become a better version of yourself. This goes back to my point about you have to have capacity to understand that regardless of who you are today, you can be better tomorrow. Not just wealthier in the dew point system, but you can be a better version of yourself tomorrow, right? That has much more impact than just creating more income next month. So what skills do you need to develop? Okay. Before we go any further, one aspect that we have to start understanding is self-awareness. So if any of you, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Again, an immigrant from communist Russia, moved to America with his parents. They had nothing. They eventually got a bit of money together, started a bottle store wherever they lived. I don't know where they lived in the States. And what Gary did was he suddenly said to his father one day, I'm going to try selling wine online. And he became the biggest online wine merchant in the US just by selling wine online. All right? So go look at Gary Vaynerchuk because he's gone on to create the greatest digital media empire that exists in the world today. You want to know about trends with regards to digital trends, go see Gary Vaynerchuk. Go watch his videos. He's on every social media platform there is. I'll warn you now, he swears a lot. If swearing offends you, maybe you don't want to go look at Gary Vaynerchuk. But he is very passionate and very enthusiastic about getting people to change their lives for the better. And one of the biggest aspects of that, he says, is self-awareness. Self-awareness, understanding who you really are. Ego, and I've said this before sometimes, you might have heard me in some of the presentations, ego is your greatest enemy. If your reason for doing something, for self-improvement, for getting ahead in life, is just so that you look better in front of other people, you will never have the motivation to push through in those times where you need to push through. They have shown it in business, right? So ego, narcissists, interchangeable term. In business, they will look at typical personality behaviors. Narcissists will typically get good jobs, right? Because they promote the best of what they have, but it is only skin deep. And so they get the job. But narcissists are shown in business not to get ahead in business and not to succeed very well once they get that job. Your ego is going to hold you back. You need to, through self-awareness, understand your strengths and weaknesses. You need to take stock of where you are and who you are today. Because only when you understand who you are and where you are today can you decide what you need to do to get ahead, right? So what are the skills that we require? That is going to speak to the mountain you need to climb. How can you improve to be better? So in our case here at Dew Point, right, we've got lots of facets at Dew Point. One of the biggest things is just connecting, right? Connecting can be quite a complex subject if you look at it, because it's got all these soft skills involved. How do I just go up to people? How do I start talking about a subject? How do I not be nervous? How do I not feel embarrassed? How do I overcome all these different obstacles? How do I develop skills so that I become really good at speaking to people, making small talk, turning the small talk into opportunity talk, and then getting them to at least come watch a presentation? Grit and endurance is part of it. It's part of everything. One of the most common factors out of any successful person is grit and endurance. We put that book up on Facebook earlier this month, a book called Grit by Angela somebody. It's there. Go look at it. There is no way around that obstacle. You have to have endurance, right? But it starts with self-awareness, because if you can get rid of ego, if you can say to yourself, well, this is where I am, this is who I am, I want to be better, and I'm willing to work for it, then you should be fine, right? It's the people that go, I'm doing it just to look good in front of other people, and then they go, oh, it's getting a bit hard, it's not really worth it. Okay. Optimistic self-talk. Now, this is an amazing one. This ties back to my point about that book that I read called Positive Thinking by John Keogh, and talking about how Arnold Schwarzenegger is a massive proponent of positive self-talk. That's quite a weird thing. I remember reading that book. I read it when, I was 14. I think I read it another 2 or 3 times after that, but when I was fairly young, so maybe 20, 25 years ago. And I remember, even when reading it, that it was quite a strange thing for me to speak to yourself and tell yourself all these positive things, to imagine yourself in a positive environment, to imagine the outcome of all these positive things happening to you. So for Arnold Schwarzenegger, he said before he got to Mr. Olympia every year, he in his head already knew that he had won it. He had walked through that entire process. Before he even walked into that city hall to do Mr. Olympia, he had already done the competition. He had already imagined and felt what it was, winning, holding up the trophy. So it's quite a bizarre thing. For me, as a young person, I thought, well, that's quite strange, but I did it anyway, right? And it's quite hard to measure, because who says that any success that I had in life was because of positive self-talk? Because there aren't two versions of me, that one did self-talk and the other one didn't, right? But what they've done now is they've been able to measure it. So I think I might make this point a little later. In the US, in the armed forces, they have Navy SEALs. We all know this, right? Enough movies have been made about the Navy SEALs. It's one of the hardest armed forces to get into, right? It is one of the most elite units in the US Armed Forces. And to get into the US Navy SEALs, they designed what they call BUDS training, or what they call Hell Week. Hell Week is one of the toughest training weeks that any armed force personnel person has to go through, right? They designed it to be as tough as possible so that the people that made it, they knew those were the people that they could depend on in the toughest situations. So they started doing Hell Week, and they had a lot of success. The people that made it, because they've got 95% dropout, they've got a bell that all you have to go do is walk up to the bell and ring it, and they send you home to a nice, warm, cozy bed, right? 95% of people, applicants, drop out. They go ring that bell because they've had enough. But after a certain amount of time, what they did was they decided that they would start doing research as to what personality traits made the people that persisted get through. Was there any commonality in the people that made it, the 5%? And you know what the one common factor was? Positive self-talk. Optimistic thoughts in your mind. Very important. Optimism is teachable. You can say to yourself, in this process of self-awareness, actually, I'm not very good at self-talk. Guess what? You can change it. You can start practicing it. It is teachable. You can adapt yourself to start using optimist self-talk. There are so many resources out there. Go get that book by John Keogh. It is an easy read. It's like 100 pages, right? There's so much information on YouTube. The list, the resources are endless. Start building your confidence, because what self-talk does is build your confidence. And you will know, if you know anything about networking and going out and speaking to people, it's all about confidence. It's almost like it's something that is exuded from you when you are confident, right? We posted another thing on Facebook where one of the guys, I forget his name, he started Paul Mitchell Hair Systems, billionaire. Started from absolutely nothing, became a billionaire, and he started out as an encyclopedia salesman. But he was the top encyclopedia salesman. He said the average lifespan of encyclopedia salesman is 3 days. That's how long they last. He did it for 2.5 years. And he said the lesson that he learned in that process is it does not matter what your circumstances are at that time. If you've just had the worst morning, he says, when you knock on that door, you take a deep breath, you put a big smile on your face, you exude confidence, and then you sell an encyclopedia. And he was one of the top salesmen in the world. Turned out to be a billionaire 20 years later, right? Build your confidence. That is why we do this. This is the process. All right, another Facebook post. Does everyone remember this? Yes. This was quite high grade for everybody, right? This long word, conscientiousness. Okay, so if any of you have gone for a job application, sometimes they say to you, and you might have experienced this in matric just before you decided what career you wanted to follow, they would do psychometric tests with you. They'll say, you must do this psychometric test, and you get asked all these weird questions, right? The purpose of those psychometric tests is to understand what your personality is. Everybody has got different personality traits, right? Personality is your behavior and your thought process according to certain events. So the latest and the foremost personality psychometric test is now called Hexaco. Hexaco has been reduced down to just 100 questions that they ask you. And out of those 100 questions, they can split your personality into these 6 different facets, right? And one of the most, I don't want to say the most important, one of the facets is called conscientiousness. And they've been able to link business and entrepreneurial success to people who score high in this facet, conscientiousness, right? So this is why we went and looked at it. Well, if you know that people that are successful in business score high in conscientiousness, well, what is that? Is it something I can do? Can I start becoming more conscientious, and perhaps I'll become more successful in whatever I do with regards to business or entrepreneurship or connecting or building a dewpoint channel, right? So if we break that down, conscientiousness is split into 4 facets, right? 4 further facets. Organization, diligence, perfectionism, and prudence, right? More big words, but we're going to break them down even more. So organization is pretty self-explanatory. The ability to seek order, particularly in one's physical surroundings. You want to keep things tidied and structured. Everything must be organized, okay? Diligence, my favorite thing. Diligence, work ethic. The ability to have grit, endurance, to work hard, not to give up. Perfectionism, to be concerned with details. It means checking carefully for mistakes and not tolerating mistakes in your work. It also means looking for improvement. Okay? And then lastly, prudence. It's the ability to not be impulsive, to think carefully, to deliberate around choices and decisions that you make. Carefully consider your options before you decide on doing certain things. Impulsiveness can lead to many things. So let's take a look at this in a little more depth in terms of practical aspects. So organization a little more closely. Structure your day. Structure your work, your week. It only takes 10 minutes, right? When I started studying all this human performance stuff, it's really a study of humanities. It always a lot of things boil down to. So a lot of common aspects that I find with all these people, from business leaders to people like Andy Walsh, psychologists, clinical psychologists, a lot of it comes back to planning your day in the morning. Deciding what you want out of the day. Being purposeful in what you prioritize in that day. And this comes back to organization. It allows you to plan and be purposeful about having the best day or the best week that you can. You don't have to plan every minute. It's just what your priorities are. So if it's like, okay, I've got this to do at work, well, that's at the top of the list. But my second priority of the day is to speak to a couple of people in my other business. We all know that other business we're involved in. That one. Right? It requires a little bit of time before you start your day. It allows you to prioritize, as I said, and it allows for less distractions. If you have not planned your day, if you have not prioritized what you want to accomplish in your day, it allows any distraction to take over and run its course. It allows for the reward of dopamine. So this is a great thing, because not only are you benefiting from being more organized, but what happens is when you are purposeful about what you want to accomplish in that day and you accomplish it, your brain triggers some dopamine, and dopamine feels good. And dopamine actually builds on itself. It's not like a little liquid that suddenly bleeds into your brain and you go, ooh, that felt lekker, and then it disappears. What actually does is dopamine actually builds on itself. It's like confidence. Confidence can build on itself, right? And so dopamine has the same effect. It only happens when you accomplish things. So in the old days when we used to run around looking for animals to hunt, we would be given dopamine every time we accomplished that. And that would make people go out and do that for survival requirements, right? So organization, very important. Secondly, diligence. So this is an easy one, right? Goes without saying. Hard work, diligence, step by step will get you there. Charlie Munger. He is, I've forgotten his business partner's name. He's an investor, a billionaire investor, and his quote is, step by step will get you there. They didn't build their fortune by going and trying to invest in one massive company and hoping that they would get there. They looked at small investments when they started out. A little bit of risk. Even venture capitalists in the US, so we all know Silicon Valley, teeming with angel investors. Strategies that they now follow is that they don't go look for one company to invest in and hope that it's going to do well. They go look at 10 because they know only 3 will succeed and 7 will fail, right? It is just step by step. It goes back to our business where people come in and they go, I'm going to be ranked 9 in 3 months. Patrick had a rant about those type of people on Tuesday night, right? People say, I'm going ranked 9. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't realize that there's work required and there's a process, there's a plan that needs to put in place. They just go, that's what I want, and I'm gonna do it. And they even put on Facebook, I'm going rank 9 in 3 months. No, you're not. No, you're not. Hard work alone won't get you there either. So if we look at the 4 facets, diligence is only 25% of conscientiousness. Hard work alone will not get you there. So that's an important thing to note, right? Because if only hard work could get you to success, well, then the rock drillers in the mines would be the most successful people in the country. This is only 25% of it. Don't think that you can get away with just being the hardest worker in the channel. It is not enough. Then we've got perfectionism. So this is a strive for improvement. Practically, it means double check your work. So Jane and I actually had a conversation about this yesterday. So, you don't have to be 100% perfect. So there's a principle called 6 Sigma. You can make 3 mistakes per million actions. Okay? So this is more something that factories, air traffic controllers take to heart. You don't want the air traffic controller making a mistake. You don't want the flight captain making a mistake. That's why there's the flight captain and the co-pilot and the engineer. They all double check each other, right? For us to improve the work and activities, we start double checking things, start striving to be better, to make less mistakes. Jane and I, we were double checking the dev seminar yesterday, and Jane said to me, you've got a, in this sentence, I don't know if there's any examples yet. She said, in this sentence, you've got an and in this sentence, you've got the and symbol, ampersand. You must make them both the same. That's a strive for perfectionism, right? It wouldn't really make too much difference. But if you start striving for improvement, well, then there will be improvement. And if there is improvement, well, then you'll be more effective at the things that you're giving priority to. And you don't have to be perfect in everything. This point speaks to prioritizing. You don't have to be perfect in everything. Perfectionism can be seen as a real pain in the butt, especially if you're married to one of them. You don't have to be perfect in everything. Only the things that you want to be perfect in, the things that mean the most to you. The other stuff you can be, make mistakes, I don't take it seriously, I do it for fun, right? But the things that you take seriously, strive for improvement. And then lastly, we've got prudence. It is the ability to work smarter. It is your capacity for learning. Your acceptance that you are not great. You are not perfect. You are not where you want to be, right? So that you can make smarter decisions and be less impulsive about what you're doing in your day. So all of these kind of feed into each other. It goes without saying it. You need an open mind. A lot of people arrive in a business like this in particular and go, I've been in a business like this before. Jeez, that gets my hair up. I'm like, don't compare me. It's like saying to your wife, you're just like my ex-girlfriend. See how well that'll go down. That won't go down well, right? So don't come to me and say, I've been in a business just like this. You have not been in a business like this. This is a very unique business. A unique business. We like to believe that. We think that. We strive for that here at Dew Point. And so prudence is your ability to not be impulsive when you look a little more closely at things. So if you had to just dig a little deeper, so especially for new people at Dew Point, if you dig a little deeper, if you spend a little more time with Dew Point, you will start to understand and appreciate what differentiates us against other businesses. And if you have that appreciation, you will be less impulsive. Because what you can do is go, Dew Point's the same as all the other businesses. I didn't earn any money this month. Let me go try another business because they're all the same. That's impulsiveness. If you're not impulsive, you look at Dew Point and you go, okay, I didn't make any money this time. Maybe it's me. Let me appreciate the system for what it is. Okay, this I can see about Dew Point. I can see this. I can see this. These are all great things. I won't jump to another system because I can see, if I look carefully, that Dew Point is the best system in the country. Right? So prudence, very important. So those are the 4 facets of that. So the conscientiousness, just going back, the conscientiousness will lead us. These are personality traits. They call it a personality inventory. You can work, going through those, can we agree that you can work on all of those different aspects that we spoke of? Your personality is not set in stone. You have to appreciate that. You're not set in stone. Wherever you are today, you can be a different person tomorrow. Slightly different, maybe a week at a time, but you can build on that. It's almost like building your channel. Build your channel a month at a time. a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. Personality, slight changes, slight improvements. 5 years down the line, people might meet you and go, you're a different person. Look at you, what happened? So I went to Rob's Hack the Success training. Maybe you'll mention me. Okay, on to the next individual. Now this is an amazing man. I'd love to meet this person. His name is Joe Dispenza. Sorry, I don't have a photo of him up, but I've got some x-rays of his. So Joe Dispenza, as you can see, he became a specialist. He only became a specialist in the fields of neuroscience, epigenetics, and quantum physics. So I'll explain a little bit of what that means. But basically his story began, I think in 1989. He was doing a triathlon, and he got driven over by a truck while he was on his bicycle. It was a race that he was doing. And anyway, he had multiple spinal compressions. So I think 6 vertebrae. Anyway, he was broken back, paraplegic in hospital, with the surgeons having done all these x-rays and CAT scans and telling him that he needs to have what is called Harrington rod surgery. That is Harrington rod surgery. Do not go Google Harrington rod surgery, right? You'll be turned off surgery forever and ever and ever and ever. It looks horrendous. What they do is they put these rods and all these bolts on your spine. They cut your spine in half and then try using the bolts and the rod system to alleviate the pressure on your spine. Absolutely horrendous. Give me the heebie-jeebies. He didn't want to do it. He was a chiropractor at that stage. And he said, I just can't do this. I can't do this. So he went and looked for other opinions. 3 other surgeons said to him, no, Harrington rod surgery is what you need. You will not walk again. You need the surgery. And he refused. And he lay in his bed for 6 weeks and decided, and why he decided this, I don't know, but he decided that his body has everything it needs to heal itself. And he started only thinking, and he tried, he failed on some days. He had 6 weeks to do this. Imagine meditating for 6 weeks straight. He couldn't go anywhere else. And he thought constantly about his body healing itself. Down to molecular level, he thought about his spine, the way it worked. And day after day, he just thought, I need to heal myself. I can't do the surgery. 12 weeks later, he was running again, training for his next triathlon. The surgeon could not believe that he was able to walk, let alone start running and training and doing everything. And from that day, he decided that he would dedicate the rest of his life to helping people improve their lives through what he learned. And so he became a specialist in neuroscience, which is what your brain is doing, right? The science around the brain. Epigenetics is how your brain and your thoughts are able to have physiological impact on your body. Again, it goes back to Arnold Schwarzenegger and positive thinking, that positive reinforcement can have and manifest itself physically, right? We don't know how that works. We don't. People don't know how it works. We are still trying to figure out. We're trying to look at all these different markers. Think about the placebo effect. Does everyone know the placebo effect? I can give you a water injection and 20% of people will get better. Doctors don't know how it works. Psychologists don't know how it works. Nobody. Pharmacists don't know how it works, right? To the extent that when pharmaceutical companies test their drugs, they have to take into consideration the placebo effect. If their drugs aren't doing better than 20%, well, then it's just a placebo effect. How on earth does that work? There is this huge gap in our understanding, right? And this is what he's studying. So you can go look at what he has to say. So I've got some tips that he shares where people can just get started with what he's learned, right? So that should say 5 steps, Joe's 5 steps to hacking your thoughts. Number 1, now this is an important one, disconnect from the world. This is something that perhaps we don't even think about, right? We are constantly, there is just a barrage of information that we get hit by constantly. We've just changed my daughter's schools. So she was at a school, very good school, but she wasn't happy there. And we decided we're going to move her to a school up the road here, Michael Mount Waldorf. And when we signed the contract at Michael Mount Waldorf, They said to us, you have to sign this agreement that says you will limit your child's access to electronic devices until they are old teenagers. And we kind of, in the background as a parent, we thought, look, too much TV is not a good thing, too much iPad's not a good thing. But they were staunch about that point, right? And a lot of the research that I've been doing with regards to the stuff we're discussing now is that, and especially Joe's point when he talks about, let me just go back there, he talks about quantum physics. So quantum physics is the antithesis of Newtonian physics. So what is the difference there? The difference between Newtonian and quantum is Newtonian is the real world effect. If I push a ball, the ball moves and then slows down. That's Newton's laws of physics, right? Everything has a reaction. Every action has a reaction. In quantum physics, we start talking about this world where thought starts to have an effect on things. And when we are barraged by all this other information, we are no longer in control over our thought process. So you look at it now, fake news. Fake news having massive impact on politics today because people in news outlets are able to control people's thought processes, and if they can control people's thought processes, they can start changing their behavior, right? Disconnect from the world. How many of us wake up and pick up our phone first thing in the morning? I'll try to stop now. It takes me about 30 seconds. Okay, look at the phone. His first point is disconnect yourself from the world, right? Do not even sleep with your phone next to you. In the old days, you didn't need your phone right next to you, right? Go put it in another room. Put it on silent. Don't pick it up when you wake up. Step number 2. So these follow from each other. So disconnect from the world. Take some controlled breaths. So this goes to meditation. Some of us pray first thing in the morning. Right? Meditation, again, is a massive commonality in a lot of these elite performers' regimens. They depend on prayer, spirituality, thought, dictating what their thought process is. So take a couple of controlled breaths and then focus on yourself. So remember, these are all Joe's things. You can go look at Joe Dispenza's website. It's got a lot of seminars, a lot of videos on YouTube. Take controlled breaths and focus on yourself. There's the positive thinking again. He says, think positively of your future. He says, your state of being is a result of everything that's happened to you in the past. Right? You have to stop being dictated to by your circumstance and by your past. Start thinking positively of what you want for your future. And that goes beyond just, I want to be ranked 9. Right? It goes way deeper than that. Again, I refer back to Arnold Schwarzenegger. His positive reinforcement was not, I want to win Mr. Olympia. He could smell the success. He could feel what that trophy felt in his hand. You have to start feeling the emotion. You have to start feeling the emotion of your positive reinforcement. If it's just a fleeting thought, there's no emotion that comes from that. You have to keep thinking positively. Keep thinking about that thing. So in rank 9's case, you have to think about what it actually feels like to be in business class. Ooh, we went to a comedy show last night. I don't know if you've seen this new young comedian, Pops. He was hilarious last night, and he spoke about business class. His first flight ever on business class. But the way he described it, he was connecting to the emotion of business class. He said watching the poor people walk past him to the back of the plane. He says even when you come onto the business class mat, he says his bag, when you're in economy class and you're in the halls there, it's going. He says, but when you get to business class, they've got a mat, so they go. He was connecting to the positive emotion of that experience, right? So when we say start thinking positively about what you want in your future, you have to start doing it until you start feeling the emotion, because it's the emotion that starts to evoke the physiological response in your body, right? Rehearse the new you. So keep going over it. It's not a once-off thing that's going to happen for you. You have to keep rehearsing it. The more you practice, the better you'll get. He says when he was lying in that stretcher, face down with a broken back, he says for 4 weeks, nothing happened. He kept going 4 weeks and he was getting frustrated. There was no improvement. And then all of a sudden, a single day, his thoughts, his focus became so much sharper and he could go through that rehearsal so much quicker and with so much more emotion. And that's when the improvement started for him, right? So we have to keep rehearsing. And then lastly, leave your past self behind. So this is something that I've started to realize in myself. We all got issues, right? I go to my marriage counselor once a month. I get reminded of all the problems that I have and that I cause. And what I've realized is that, and this is real, what I've realized is that we look at ourselves in the mirror and we decide that this is who I am, right? This is who I am. And having gone to someone like a marriage counselor, who's also very much been a spiritual counselor to us, I've always been open to improvement. But what I haven't done is I haven't decided that I want to cut these pieces of my behavior and my personality and what I identify with. I haven't decided to cut them away and leave them behind. I'm still in the process of that. And he says it is a final thing that you have to decide to do. You've got to decide these are pieces of me that I do not want with me anymore. They are not part of my future self, right? So 5 wonderful steps to hacking your thoughts. If anyone starts doing this, please come talk to me and tell me how it's going, right? I'd love to hear and get some feedback from you. So practically, to end off on our how to hack success, practically what are 7 things we can start doing now? So number 1, write these things down. Take a photo of this. Go make sure that you use this just to make sure that you're keeping yourself accountable to trying this dev seminar out. Define the mountain. Think about a mountain. It must be scary and exciting at the same time, right? I think of examples that are non-dew point-ish. I think about things that I've kind of thought, oh, I wish I could do that, right? You all know that I tried Iron Man. So I did Iron Man. But what else is there? I would love to. I love music. I love music. I've always wanted to, but I'm a bit deaf when it comes to actual music, right? I like to listen to it. And I've always thought to myself, I'd love to learn to play guitar. But I'm too scared to. Why? Because I think I'll fail. I think I'd be bad at it. I don't think I would succeed. So create a mountain that scares you and excites you at the same time. Perhaps it's something that you've been putting off, right? Perhaps it's rank 9. Perhaps it's rank 14. Take a few minutes every morning to plan your day. It goes back to Joe's 5 points, right? Keep yourself accountable to your plan. That goes without saying. Do not compromise on the mountain. Don't try to reduce the mountain. Keep the mountain where it is, right? Keep yourself accountable to the plan so that you get there. Practice positive self-talk. Assess failures and assess failures and room for improvement. Again, your openness to improvement, to learning. Celebrate short-term achievements. You need that dopamine. They've showed that people that don't have dopamine fall into depression. Right? You might think, well, that's obvious, right? But you can hack it. Create small achievements that you can reach at the beginning. You don't go straight up the mountain in one day, right? You go sit at base camp for a little bit. You go there, you go there. There are all these little waypoints on the way up to the mountain. Allow those to be achievements. Celebrate them. That's why I'm a little bit facetious when I say, oh, rank 1, you get 55 Rand. You must go buy a cupcake and celebrate. You must. It is a celebration to get to rank 1. You're on the board, right? And then celebrate short-term achievement, and then lastly, help someone else. Alcoholics Anonymous, you might know, have a 12-step program to dealing with addiction. Step number 12, they say, if alcoholics don't do step number 12, they are more likely to go back to drinking. What is step number 12? They have to become a sponsor to another alcoholic. Help someone else. Life is not just about you, right? We look at Patrick and Pumi, Dani's channels. We highlighted that number. They've helped 13 people start earning money by the time they got to rank 9. Patrick and Pumi had a rank 9 on their first point. They were the reason that a person got introduced to rank 9 and started earning 20,000 Rand a month within 5 months. Start with that understanding that you can actually help somebody else. What it does in turn is it keeps you accountable to those people, right? You don't want to disappoint those people. They're helping you. You'll give up. You'll less likely give up. So what are those 7 things in wealth engineer terms? The mountain. We know we're all running the Road to Rank 9 campaign at the moment. The mountain can be rank 9. Can you do rank 9 in 24 months? People are going, I'm going in 3 months. No, you're not going in 3 months. Go rank 9, 24 months, 12 months, whatever it is, and earn 20,000 Rand a month plus, right? Let that be your mountain. Your goals, how do you prepare your day? Well, I prepare my day. I say I want to speak to 3 people a day. Whether they say yes or no, that is what I keep myself accountable to. And I want to book 1 appointment, right? So these are examples, guys. Connect 3 new people every month. So that's the number that I have to keep myself accountable to. This is the task. That's the number I keep myself accountable to. Positive self-talk. I can get to rank 9. I can feel business class. My trolley, okay, I can feel the business class mat, all the food and the drink. That guy on Poor Pops, he says when he gets to the business class lounge, he doesn't know how it works there. And he goes to the bar and he says, so he stands there, he says, I'll have a Heineken. And the barman puts the Heineken on the table. And then he says, then there's this moment, he's not sure what's going on. Do I have to pay? Because the guy's not doing anything. He's not asking for money. He's like, am I running a tab? And then the guy sees his confusion. The barman sees his confusion. He says, my bra, it's for free. Take the Heineken back. I want the shivers. Right? Allow yourself to feel the emotion of business class, of seeing your 2 little children sitting in business class seats, right? Knowing that this is a vacation, an international conference you're going to be enjoying every single year for the rest of your life. To feel that sand in Mauritius is actually better than sand in Umhlanga rocks, right? Positive self-talk. Constantly rehearse it, rehearse it, rehearse it. Improve my pitch. So room for improvement. Improve my pitch. Improve small talk with people. Improve how I transition from small talk to speaking about opportunity, right? Learn from other rank 9s. We've got 500 videos on YouTube. How many people have actually just sat on YouTube and just gone through and go, I haven't watched that video, let me watch that video. I was so excited when Renee and Henny said she phoned 30 people and they all said no. And then she went and made a cappuccino and sat on the bed and then was going through the tools on her phone. She said, I haven't watched that one. What was it? Simple steps to success. And she clicked on that and she felt motivated again. And then she went and made 5 calls and she got 4 appointments, right? After 30 no's, right? Learn from everything else around you. There are so many resources. I mean, this is the advent of technology today, is that we have everything in our fingertips. Drown yourself in all this information. Books, videos, training, other rank 9s, experience. And then I'm rank 1. Celebrate it. Ask for that dopamine. Ask for the dopamine. Rank 1, right? Cupcake. Treat yourself with that 55 Rand. And then help my first pointers to start earning. This is where you get to help other people in this business. There is way more fulfillment when you see that your hand in someone's life has led to improvement rather than you just enriching yourself. So that's the final step. The man on top of the mountain did not fall there, right? Vincent Lombardi. You have to realize that regardless of where you are, when you look in the mirror and you see the person that you think you are, when you start to realize that that person can be changed, when you look at other successful people and you start to realize that they're not better than you, they're not more talented than you, they don't have better genetics than you, that actually the truth is that they've just worked harder than you, that they've earned it. But what that does is it empowers you to realize that you can get anywhere that you want to, if it only requires hard work and time. and a capacity for learning. Elon Musk said if it's something important enough, you should try it. Even the probable outcome might be failure. One thing I can almost guarantee you, in this business and in any other endeavor, is that there will be days when you're going to feel like you're failing. But if it's important enough to you, if you're willing to risk a little bit every day, failure, being embarrassed, being told no 30 times in a row, if you're willing to risk that and open yourself for that improvement, look a little bit into how to change that person that you see in the mirror, well, then success is waiting for you. It's waiting for you. It's around the corner. It's little improvements day by day. And that is our training this morning. Good luck, guys.